best strategy for justifying an expensive learning initiative is to really focus on measurement to mitigate risk. What we like to tell people is whenever you have strategic, visible, or costly learning programs, and by that I mean they're programs that tend to be something that is very directly related to a strategy of the business, something that might be 5, 10, 15 times more budget than a typical learning program, or be something extremely visible where even the CEO or the COO of the company participate or champion the program. Those are huge red flags where you want to do more measurement on those types of programs to mitigate risk and to show value, governance, and stewardship. Having said that, there are a couple of best practices that we recommend when you have those types of programs. And those types of programs could be some programs like leadership, onboarding or new hire, as well as sales programs. Those typically are the ones that meet this criteria, although I'm sure there's more. When you run into programs like this, it's probably best to focus on a couple of areas from a measurement perspective and to do so with a little bit more budget in your measurement than you would normally do. So at most organizations, we recommend a budget of about 5% of the total L&D expenditure be spent on measuring the other 95%. In this particular case, we recommend that go up to about 8 to 10% because of the degree of the strategic link, the visibility of the program, and the sheer cost of it. So what do you do with that money? Well, what we recommend, number one, is to focus on the key performance indicators. Figure out what are the efficiency, effectiveness, and outcome measures that you should be measuring, and figure out where you're going to get those measures. Are they going to come from evaluations, assessments, the learning management system, or a business system? And then where are they going to go from a reporting perspective on a dashboard, scorecard, or an executive report? The second thing that would be important with a measurement plan for these types of programs would be to also take a look at turning a smile sheet, which you would typically do on a normal learning program, into what we call a smart sheet. A smart sheet has the ability to predict and forecast beyond just the quality of the program itself. You could take a look at the indications around learning effectiveness, impact and behavior change, alignment to business results, and even the support that managers will have for that learning when the participants go back on the job. A third thing that you might want to contemplate when doing measurement of strategic and visible programs is to think about dashboards. Dashboards are what executives love to see. They're visual, concise, and articulate elements to your measurement. They basically compile data from more transactional type reports, but build them up to a more aggregate level and present them in a way that an executive or a business person can consume easily. Like a dial gauge dashboard that shows, for example, the learning effectiveness score versus a goal or a benchmark, and are we higher or lower. So dashboards should be paid particular attention because of the fact that executives like to see data in that language. There are other things that you can do with strategic, visible, and costly programs from a measurement perspective, and they include things like testing and certification for things like new hire programs, where you want to increase the confidence of the individual or their manager that they have learned the material that they were supposed to in the right way. You can also do what we call a competency assessment. So if you're doing a leadership program and you have a personal coach or mentor assigned to the individual, which could be extremely costly, we recommend doing some form of a competency or capability assessment to understand the hidden strengths and blind spots and gaps before the coaching begins. Therefore, it's a more individualized and specific coaching plan versus generic coaching, which tends to fail more than be successful for the most part. There are other things that one could do as well, and those include anything from manager reinforcement, which is sort of a performance management type tool. When people leave the captivity of the formal program, they might be forced to set some goals for behaviors and outcomes, and then check in against those goals to their managers, maybe on a monthly basis for 6 months after the program. That forces people to think about, how am I now using the program for specific behavioral change and outcome difference? And it allows the manager to view those changes and say, hey, how can I help? Where can I make a difference? Could I reprioritize my employees' time and efforts so that they focus more on using the training than they otherwise would have? Because great training by itself isn't going to be that successful without the engagement of the manager. So that's something that's very important to think about as well. So all these things combined together really create a holistic plan for measurement. It starts with the budget. It starts with recognizing what's strategic, what's visible, and what's costly, and then it then moves on to what are the tools that I have within my capability and within my existing people, time, and personnel resources to go about doing it. And if you do it successfully and you plan for it and you build it into your strategic programs, it could be very powerful from a output perspective, because you can convey to executives and others what were the efficiency, effectiveness, and outcome measures that were really relevant on the program and that made a difference after the program. So those are some of the best practices that we'd recommend.